Hello everyone, welcome back to the show. This is 2025's newest project, Personal Beauty, and I'm your host, RachelEnergy. Welcome to the second episode. How did you enjoy the first episode of Personal Beauty? I loved connecting with you guys, and you guys added lots of comments and everything. So I loved connecting, and it was good to get to know each other. Now we're going on to our second episode, which is makeup. Somebody commented last time that they wanted to do like a spring makeup look, and I was like, that sounds good, so why not just bring it to the second episode? It's currently spring right now in Korea, and as you know, Korea has 4 seasons, and currently it is spring. Soon, the cherry blossoms will be blossoming, so I've prepared a spring look for you. So let's start this. So before we start, I'm going to start with my base makeup first. And I'm going to start with using an ampoule because, as you probably know, in kbeauty right now, having a beautiful, like natural looking makeup is important. And the way to do that is to have glowy skin. And the best and fastest and easiest way is actually using an ampoule. And it's good to make sure that the ampoule is all rubbed into your skin so that it looks like you have that glow within. After using an ampoule, it's good to use a cream before you start with the actual makeup process. So make sure you go in with the cream as well and rub it in well. And during this time, it's important that you actually get to know your skin first so that the makeup will actually be more natural looking. Because as you know, since the spring means that it'll have lots of temperature differences, when it's hot, you don't want to sweat all of your makeup off, so it's good to have like a thin layer and then to just sort of build it up. And I'll let you know how it goes. So first, just make sure you base prep first because that's the most important. So first you base prep and then you go in with some type of primer or some type of cream in which you can sort of have like a more radiant glow. And I'm going to be using a more of a whitish looking primer. It may look a bit white at first, but do not worry because we're going to rub it in. And with makeup, it's important that you also start with your cheeks and then you just make sure you blend it out well. Now going in with foundation. 1 pump is usually enough. And the reason why is because we're going to be using a makeup brush as well. And you make sure that you use a makeup brush first, and then you apply starting with your cheek area, and then using thin layers, you literally just rub it in like so. Pat it in, actually, not rub it in. You pat it in, and you may be thinking, oh, that's not enough coverage. Well, do not worry because we're going to be continuing doing this process. And just using light layers is the key because that's the current trend that's going on in Korea. If you think that 1 pump is not enough, then you go in with another pump so that we don't waste makeup, and we continue doing that. And using a brush will help because it'll help to spread easily among your face and for it to not have like very huge looking, like thick looking makeup. And the key is literally to pat it all in so that it looks like your skin looks better and that glow within your skin is also showing at the same time. And since foundation is literally just a foundation, it's not going to give you as much coverage as you want. But do not worry about that because we will be using concealer to conceal all of the blemishes and all of the dark spots and whatever. Now, after going in with the foundation with the brush, what I like to do is I like to take a cushion foundation, and I usually just do this and then go into just the middle part of my face because this is where the light hits, and just go in here like so and just pat it in gently so that it looks like I have more of a volume face, because that kind of like volume is important because, as you know, one of the beauty standards in Korea is to have a smaller face. Now, I'm pretty sure you might be fond with these type of color correcting concealers. Well, usually you can find these easily at other stores and whatnot, but these purple or like green types are good for hiding all of the redness, so that if you have breakouts, sort of like me, then you can hide all of the redness and the blemishes with this first, so that it looks like it's more of like a natural finish. And then you may be thinking that it looks too green or too purple. Well, do not worry, because we're going to go in with a more of a concealer-like color that's closer to our skin type, and just rub it in on top. And with concealer, it's important that you do literally light layers, because having light layers is the key to a natural looking finish. And now we're gonna start with the eye makeup. Since it's now spring, we're going to do more of like a pinkish type of look as you wanted, as somebody commented in the first episode. So we have prepared more of like pinkish tones today, because it's going to give more of like a spring vibe. And starting off first with a base makeup on our eyes. For base, usually it is something close to your skin color, so something like this, and you lightly dab it. And then since there is usually flyaways and fallout from your eyeshadow, it's good that you just sort of like do this with your eyeshadow. And then you start from a middle part and then you just spread it out. And these days with K-beauty and with K-pop idols and everything, it's important that you do your under eyes as well. And the under part of your eyes is called the aegyeosal, and even in English it's called aegyeosal. So you do your aegyeosal like so. Next, we're going to use a more of like a muted type of shadowy color, and in Korean this is called 음영, and it's more of like just creating a shadow so that it looks like your eyes have more depth inside. And you just literally just go up until the part in which your eye hole sort of is. So this is like, this would be where your crease is. So you just take something like this, and if you poke your eye, then you can see where it goes in. It's all different for each person, but this is the easiest way to find out. And usually you would do your 음영 or your shadow right until here. And then you just lightly just brush it up until here. And like I said before, having that gradient look is important. And also don't forget the bottom part as well, but you don't have to go in with the shadow one more time. What's left on your brush is already enough to do just the bottom part, so do that. Now for our main color, we're going to use more of these like pinkish type of colors. And it doesn't matter which type of color we're gonna use. And you might have a different palette from mine, but that's okay, because we're just going to pick and choose basically. And what's important is that you use a tone that sort of suits your color, and we're gonna mix these four colors basically. Using a fluffy type of brush, we're going to just go on the top like so, very lightly, so that it looks like you have more of that, like, you know, a bit of more like that pinkish look, but not too like harsh, a bit more subtle. And you also go to the bottom part as well, because in K-beauty and like the idol looking makeup and what's trending right now is to have that almond shape like so. So what I like to do is make sure that the shadow sort of like connects with the top and bottom part. I'm going to take a very thin brush, and I'm going to take a dark brown shadow, and I'm going to create a little wing first. Before, it was more popular and trending to do an eyeliner that was black or something that was very sharp. However, the look right now is to do a more subtle but more natural looking brownish color, mauvey brownish taupe colored eyeshadow. And you don't really need an eyeliner, basically. Just having an eyeshadow is enough. And if you make mistakes, do not worry, because we have our Q-tips or our cotton swabs with us. That'll help us to fix the mistakes, like so. And if you are worried about the fallout, then do not worry, because we are also going to just rub that in. After doing that, you may be thinking that there's a bit of like a harsh line. Well, then you take the previous muted color, and then you go in one more time, but very gently between this part and also this part, and you sort of like blend it out so that it doesn't have harsh lines. Now we're gonna go on to the aegyeosal, which is the under eyes, and having that like aegyeosal look is, you know, kind of the trend, and it's very easy to do. If all you need to do is just find where your aegyeosal is, and you take the same type of like muted color, and when you smile, this part will sort of come out, and you just draw a line sort of here, starting right beneath your eye like pupil, and then you sort of like blend it out so that it doesn't look too harsh. Just creating that shadow beneath your eye sort of creates that aegyeosal effect. I like to use a pencil eyeliner in which it's more of like a base color. That's sort of like a concealer basically. And then I like to go within the aegyeosal and make it look more like 3D, a bit more dimensional. And just doing this right now makes it so much more dimensional, but you may be thinking it looks too much. So of course, we're gonna blend it out again. And then it looks a bit more natural compared to this eye, right? Since the current trend right now for aegyeosal is to have more of like a pinkish, like a bit of subtle glitter type of look. So we're going to take a pink glitter that's not too harsh, and that's not too white, and that's not too pink. Yeah, I know, it's very hard, but we're going to just like mix in all of these colors. And we're going to start with this part. Start always in the middle, and then we're gonna like blend it out. Since we added that concealer on top, it's going to have a better like setting effect basically, and it's going to stay onto your eye so much easier and so much better, and it'll have that subtle glitter effect. And you may be thinking, since it's spring, I want to have more of like that pinkish and more of like that glittery effect. Well, since there is some type of glitter here, we're going to take this glitter, and I usually like to use my hands, and I put it onto my ring finger because the ring finger is the most weakest and it won't have such a harsh effect. And I just lightly go in within the whole eye, and as you can see, it has that subtle glittery effect, and it has that more of that like spring look basically. After doing so, we're going to go on to the eyebrows. And remember the brush that we used before? We're going to go into the eyebrows first. Very lightly, just sweep it in. And then we're going to use a eyebrow pencil. Just brush it out using the spoolie. The current trend in eyebrows in Korea is to have more of like a thinner eyebrow. And here is also a tip for you. Your eyeliner should always be shorter than your eyebrow. So right now, my eyeliner is so much longer than my eyebrow end. So that means that I have to extend the end of my eyebrow so that it is longer than the end of my eyeliner. So now this is where my eyebrow will end. So do you get the point? Like this eyebrow and this eyebrow, I have drawn in this much, and this will look so much better than this one. And everyone has different shapes with their eyebrows, so you need to go find which eyebrow shape will fit you. And currently, another trend is that your hair color should be darker than your eyebrows. So I'm going to use a more taupey looking color, Brow Cara, which is like a brow mascara. And I'm going to fill in my eyebrows And this is my original color, and this is the color that I'm sort of like coating with this brow mascara. So now that my eyebrows are done, we're going to move on to lashes. So for lashes, usually I curl my lashes or I do some type of other like curling wand, that kind of stuff. But I'm just going to go in with mascara. And this mascara is just a basic mascara, and I'm just going to coat my eyelashes. Just putting on that mascara would be good, but a lot of people probably have seen lots of K-pop idols getting their makeup done, and a lot of people have probably seen this type of stick before. And what the stick does is you need to use it with fire. So be careful if you are underage, then you need to have a parental guidance and whatever. But I like to use you use a lighter and you use the stick and you heat it up. So this is a new stick, so it's going to take some time. But once it is heated up, you can see that there is a bit of smoke, and you literally just curl the ends of your eyelashes. And what this does is, since there is heat, be careful that you don't burn yourself and that you use very slow movements. But what you do is, with the heat, you're going to curl the ends. And what this does is, remember how we just applied mascara? And sometimes mascara clumps. The heat is going to unclump that mascara. And it's going to also curl the end of your lashes as well. So in a way, it's helping to unclump your mascara, and also it's helping to curl the ends. So compared to before, the ends have so much more curl than before. Another tip is that you use a mascara that has a bigger like wand, and you go in one more time to coat, sort of like brush it out. Usually people say fire stick, and in Korean it's 불고데기. So translated, that's like fire curler. So you basically use a fire curler. And this is, of course, it's not mandatory, and you may or you may not do this. If you also have under eyelashes, then you can also go in with a mascara using the like a thinner type of mascara that goes for your under eyelashes. But for me, I don't have under eyelashes, so we're just going to leave it here. But instead, what I'm gonna do, since a lot of people, including me, don't have like under eyelashes, what I like to do is I like to take a sort of like, not such a totally grayish type or a brownish type, but more like a color that's in between. And I take a very thin brush, and right near your under lashes, I just sort of underline here. You have to make sure the middle part is like the darkest, and you sort of like blend it out. Then it'll sort of have the effect that you have under eyelashes. So comparing this eye with this eye, it totally makes a difference, and it makes your eyes look so much bigger as well. And I'm gonna do the same with this eye as well. So as you can see, my eyes look a bit more wider. If there has been a lot of fallout from your eyeshadow and onto your skin, then we're going to sort of like clean it up with the mascara, with the concealer. But if that is not the case, then right now I don't have that much fallout, so I'm going to set my whole face with a powder. Remember the finishing powder? We're just going to sort of set the face, but we're not going to go in too much. We're not going to bake our skin like we did before, but we're just going to lightly just swipe our face using a powder and just go in all over. Now, for that pinkish look, we're going to go in with a blush. And as you probably know, a lot of the idols and like a lot of the artists right now are using different types of blushes, and they're using a lot under their eyes, and it needs to be sort of connected basically, because like I said, that gradient look is very important, and that's what's trending right now. So we're gonna take this type of sort of like a less muted, but sort of muted type of pinkish color, and we're gonna take a flat brush, and we're gonna start in the middle of the eye and sort of work our way down. And just doing this already makes a connection from the eye, and down towards our cheek. And you literally just make very small movements. And just a little goes a long way because the pigmentation is probably good. And it's important that you don't go past your nose, because if you go past your nose with the blush, then it'll make your face look so much longer. And what we're trying to do is make a smaller face, basically. And doing this sort of makes that more of like that dimensional look in a way. And this blush is sort of going to work its way up towards the top. And now, since there are 4 colors, we're going to use the darkest color, and using more of a rounded brush, we're going to go towards the end so that the face looks more lifted, because having a lifted face is also important. And what I like to do is, since there is already this like dark color that's left onto the brush, I like to take the lighter colors and sort of blend that in with the whole face. And what I like to do is I take a very like fluffy type of eyeshadow brush, and I take the same shade that we did our blush, like the start of our blush with, and I like to go under and just add in a bit more detail. Then it'll literally just connect from your eye makeup to your blush so that it'll make it look more natural. Something that's also trending right now is having that like connected blush look. And what I like to do is I take the blush and I just connect it from the blush to the bridge of my nose, like so. And then it'll make it sort of more connected in a way, and it'll be more natural, and at the same time, it won't be too harsh. And also the end of your nose as well, but not too much, or else it'll make you look like you're sunburnt. So just a teensy bit will do its magic, and it's important to blend in. So without adding more, you just use what's left on the brush basically, and you just blend it in. Last but not least, for contour, we're going to take more of like a cool toned type of muted contour palette, and starting from the edges of your jaw, like from the back of your ear, we're going to just make a very subtle type of movement so that it looks like you have a more defined jaw. Same goes for this part. Just continue like that. And just doing this will already make it have a shadow and contoured look without it looking too contoured, if you get what I'm saying. So like, it's important that you do contour, but not too much, in which you can see from miles away. So having that like subtle contour look is important. And like I said, you always make sure you need to blend it in. Same goes for your forehead. Go towards the hairline. And the reason why I told you before to use finishing powder or setting powder on your hairline is because we're going to contour. And if we contour just on foundation, then the contour will look very, it'll be too like harsh. So if we use a finishing powder, then even when we contour like the edges of our face, then it'll be more natural and it'll blend in, and the powder won't be as blotchy. After we've contoured, of course, we're going to use a highlighter to sort of like brighten our face. And what I like to use is a highlighter that's a bit more subtle and that isn't too like in your face, and it's not too sparkly. And I also like to highlight the inside of my eyes like so, and to connect it. So we're going to go into the corner of our eye, but instead of it going too into near the nose, we're gonna keep it like inside, if you get what I mean. And this will sort of like brighten your eye in a way. Now, using a more like fluffy type of flat brush, we're going to highlight the bridge of your nose, but we're not going to create a straight line, but we're literally just going to do it up until this part so that when the light hits, it's more natural. And then we're going to also highlight the end of our nose, but not too much because that like straight line is a bit too considered old. So we're just going to sort of make a more natural highlight basically. And finally, last but not least, we're going to go in with our lips. And for lips, it's more popular these days to use this type of like overlined lip liner. And having an over lip is basically the trend. And you just go into your lips as so. And having a color that's a bit like the edge of your lip is better. And it's better to have like more of like a blurry type of lip color. And if you don't have a lip liner that's like so, do not worry because you can always just use a regular lipstick and then just sort of blend it out. Using a brush, you're just going to make the edges less harsh and just smudge it out. Now, currently the trend is sort of to have like a, like a lifted lip, sort of. And what you do is after doing a lip, you take a gloss and you sort of like apply it only towards the middle though. A bit to the middle, the top and bottom. And this will have that like sort of lifted lip basically. And if you have a darker color in which you're gonna use, then if you have a darker color, then you just add this only towards the inside. And then it'll make that sort of like lifting effect. And that's how, you know, the K-pop idols are doing it. So this is what's trending. And this is really the final look. So what do you think? Is it giving cherry blossom and is it giving that spring type of look? Well, I hope this was, you know, somewhat useful because we talked about how to do our makeup base, how to do our like foundation and how to set our makeup, how to do the eyes. And I hope you had fun with me and I hope, you know, you have more ideas as to what I should talk about in the future. So please do not hesitate to let me know in the comments down below as to what I should talk about in future episodes and what you thought about today's episode and if it was helpful and whatnot, because I love to connect and it's great to see your comments. So please make sure you leave a comment down below. Since I have a finished makeup look, I think it's fair that we should have a nice looking outfit as well, right? So maybe we should talk about outfits in the next episode. Who knows? Let me know if you have any ideas or comments, and I hope to see you in the next episode. Bye!